ST segment, joining of the cycle, time for ventricular squeeze. If it's down, it's bad. If it's up, it's sad. If it's flat, then things are a breeze. J points and segment height, so much to put in your brain. Keep on learning, you kook at you, 'cause learning keeps you sane.
Well, hey everybody, exciting. We've made it to the ST segment and we'll talk a little bit about the J point as well. So this won't be long, we're just gonna cover it off and we'll talk about some of the problems and what this is associated with from a disease state in another video, because there's quite a bit to cover. But basically, I just want to define the ST segment. Might come as no surprise that the ST segment falls between the S wave and the T wave. This is the ST segment right here. ST segment. Right there. Now, the ST segment, here it's pretty easy to see. It's the flat line, it's in between the S wave and the T wave, but that's not always the case. And when we talk about some of these pathological conditions, we can see that it takes a different shape. It can be flat, up, down, bumpy, whatever. The ST segment can be a bit tricky. What we're really looking for, especially when we talk about things like a STEMI or an ST elevation MI, where the ST segment is elevated or depressed in maybe a non-STEMI or other occlusive MI, is it can be tricky to find exactly where it starts and if it's elevated or not. So what we look for is we look for something called the J point. And the J point is simply the point at which the S wave transitions to the ST segment. Here, it's pretty obvious. This is the J point right there. When you have an ST segment that's elevated and an S wave that's maybe has a different morphology, it can be tricky to figure out where that is. So it's important to take your time and look in a lead or look in a couple of different leads to determine exactly where you think that transition from the S wave to the ST segment is, because that's the basis of what we use to determine ST elevation or depression, as well as the shape and everything of the ST segment. And like I say, we'll talk about that later. Not much else to say. A couple of quick points though is the ST segment can be of different lengths, but it's in the normal state, it's isoelectric. It's not up, it's not down. There's no depolarization occurring in either direction to that lead. It's kind of just flat. There's no electrical activity. So why is it there? The best way to think about the ST segment is this is making the ventricles fire. This is the ventricles actually moving. So this is where we actually relate that electrical stuff into the mechanical stuff. We have the electrical depolarization, and then we have this time here, and in that time is when the ventricles are actually squeezing and propelling blood forward. So that's a really important part of the cycle, obviously, because you have to have time to actually move the blood. And once that's over, then we get into the T wave, which we'll talk about next.